Welcome back to the Leaders of Leaders podcast. Today I'm here with Shep Inglis. G'day, Shep.
Hey, how you going, Brett?
Good, mate. So, Shep, we're studying a graduate. I'm doing a graduate certificate. You're doing a master's in workplace wellbeing at the moment.
Yes.
So you're, as we can tell, well, your accent, not Australian. So what's
I'm
been
Canadian.
your journey? Yep. Welcome to Australia.
Oh, thanks. I've been here since 2002.
Yeah.
So it's been a long journey. It's been a reflection actually recently. So when I was in high school, I found a Gilbert rugby ball. Union's a bigger sport in Canada, as we're certainly stepping up and showing the world in the recent platforms with the women's rugby and even the men's and the sevens. I was in an amateur pro capacity as a flanker, playing in Ontario, and I had opportunities come my way in the 90s to come to Australia on scholarship with 3 different schools. At that time, my understanding was the government had international policies around scholarships, how they were awarded, what you could take from them, but also what you had to give back. At that time, I believe it was under the Keating government and that Labour government regime, international scholarships came with a year of work on the other side of the year of scholarships. So for every year, you owe us a year to give back to our country to help it grow. To which my mother was highly opposed. I'm not sending my son off to Australia. You'll meet an Aussie girl and you won't come back. So I laid my Indian school. I ended up going to 2 unis in Canada, and I ended up finding an Aussie gal there while I was behaving myself, or not behaving myself, so to speak. And here we are.
So your mother's fears rang true just on the other side of the world.
I think it came at a season of life where I kind of started to prioritize other things and starting to figure out who I was, where I was going, what my priorities were. A severe injury to the shoulder ended the rugby rather abruptly and quickly. It led to other choices that led to other things, both good and lessons learned. So when I kind of put Australia on the back burner of a dream that I wanted to come here more than anything and educate here, start a life here, and I thought, well, it's not going to happen. When I stopped chasing it, the universe in Australia chased me. An Aussie gal found me and dragged me back. No regrets. I am a Aussie. From the head down to the waist is Canadian. From the waist to the feet is Australian because it's down under. Which leads me to a funny story. When I did my recent will, my wife and I actually indicated to the lawyer that when I go on the Weber, I'd like my remains to be separated and the top half to go back to Canada, be buried under a maple tree, and the bottom part be buried here in Australia under a gum tree. And the poor thing, she's looking at me kind of perplexed, and she's like, I don't think they have that technology to separate your upper torso from your lower. I don't know how they'll do that. And when I did the bottom half's down under anyway, but it was interesting. It was interesting. What do they call it? That neurodiversity thing going on there. I think that's what I was experiencing. So I had to step back and let my wife explain the dad joke. So what do you do? Can't have it all.
That's
right. I've got nice hair, so I'm still in with the win.
So, mate, we're both in the workplace wellbeing leadership sphere. And that's what I wanted to touch on today was that leadership mentality. I was talking to so what's your journey been into leadership?
So this is beautiful. And I'm sure you've had many people, I love your podcast and I love your vision and where you're taking this. And I'm sure I'm probably not the first one to tell you about how to suck eggs here. But if I'm going to repeat it, there is a major description difference between being a manager and being a leader. 100%. And sometimes our leaders aren't the ones who have the business card with the extra letters at the end of their name. They are not the people who have the extra titles. They are the people who do life with you. They are the people who are just naturally driven in empathy and compassion and understanding and focus and discernment and integrity. They are the people that sometimes are the true leaders in business. Sometimes managers can become a leader, but sometimes managers are those people that are academically just astute when it comes to playing with AI or Monday or Grammarly or doing spreadsheets and driving Excel and driving qualitative and quantitative information. But they have the bedside manner of a grouchy old doctor when it comes to managing people and people stuff. Leaders have that empathy. So I'm sure you've heard that probably described differently, but this is how Shep talks. You get what you get and you don't get upset. That's what I tell my kids. And very true. So there is, and in the scope of my wellness and leadership, am I an expert in it? No. Sadly, I'm not. But every day I thrive, become better at it, and learn through achievements, not of just my own, but the people that are on the journey with me, and shared successes, and celebrating their successes, because that's what leaders do. It's not about flag waving what I've given and what I've done. It's about how I've empowered others to achieve their best. And I think that's important. So, but I also take away lessons learned. I can sit and cry when I fall on my face, or I can get up like I've taught my children over the years, as your dad, I love you.
Yep.
And you are going to fall sometimes.
Mm.
And that's okay. I promise you, as your dad, I will always be there to support and help you up so far as I can. But I can't always be there to help you stop the fall.
Yeah.
And that's leadership too.
I think with that, like, you're always going to fall. It's just a matter of how you pick yourself up afterwards, and you learn from that experience. That's what is part of life.
And showing empathy when they do fall.
Yeah.
Give yourself empathy. You're human in this too.
Yeah.
You're learning.
That's it.
It's okay to let a couple teardrops fall every now and again.
Yeah.
It's not unmanly. It's not it's human.
Yeah.
And showing that same empathy for people when they fall, they feel deflated, they feel beaten, and say, hey, it's okay. You took a hard hit, but I value you. I appreciate you. And oh my goodness, when you took that fall from the tree, you took some low-lying fruit down with you. There's opportunity here. Once we get up, there's some prime picking, and you created that. In the smelliest horse manure, my friend, the most beautiful flowers do grow. Yeah, and that's a saying my grandmother gave me, and it's since I've had it written and published and put out there. And that came about helping my grandmother as a young man in her garden bed. And I hated it. I do it for the $5 to go and get candies and ice cream. But I always had the task of the chicken shit and the horse cow manure all through, and I hated it. Yeah. But Grandma at the time said, Shepherd, in the smelliest manure, the most beautiful flowers will grow. In that moment, she was talking about the garden. But I realized my grandmother was a very deep, very knowledge-rich farmer's wife and woman, salt of the earth human being. She was actually planting a seed of knowledge in my head and telling me, when you have shit come into your life, good things will grow from it. Yeah, and it's true. And I think that's one of the things in leadership and well-being is saying to people, you have to have a bit of manure every now and again because it supports what the rain and the sun are doing, and it generates growth. Yeah. And when growth comes, and the flowers are in, and the colors are vibrant, and the smells are just vigorous, who remembers the shit? True?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So that's a very kind of a long rabbit warren to take you down to your general question of wellness and what it means to me. But no truer words. I'm learning too. Yeah. And I went into safety, a structured safety system person, the systems of work. Yeah. I came from a very robust agricultural family. I came from aviation. I went from John Deere's and farming to Boeings and Airbus, Cessnas and Pipers. And then I found fire trucks after 9/11. I didn't wake up one day and say, I'm going to be a fireman as well, on top of flying and airplanes and fixing them. Something bad happened to the world.
It's like that shit, like shit happened. You've learned from that and you've grown from that.
And the growth came in doing both and taking the best nuggets of both. Yeah. And also the shit. Yeah. And they're worth lessons learned. It wasn't a robust system for psychosocial and empathy. When I went in 2003 as a recruit, and the things you were exposed to and how they thought, well, God bless them, they thought they were desensitizing you to what you were about to embrace through videos and footage and scenarios, because you have to start somewhere. But there was no debriefs in clinical on the other side of what you've just been exposed to, and then the real life stuff that happens. I could share stories, but I think for the collective audience and for their empathy for them, what I experienced has to stay with me and in my head and forever be part of Shep's lessons learned and growth and healing. But what I can tell you is there were often more fatalities and suicides than there were house fires and other things to have to deal with.
I guess those are often things that people don't realize are so common that emergency services get called to, in that they just see the fire or the car crash that you're responding to, but oftentimes it's not just that. But even in those the car crashes, there's always graphics, there's always fatalities, there's always these things that often doesn't get touched on. But then even for the fireys or the emergency services, there's no, as you said, there's no debrief.
There's still very there's some maturity there that needs to still occur. They're still dealing with it, and it's not just in a Canadian safety environment of fire. It's here in Australia too. When I finished over there, I swore I didn't want to go back near a big red bus anymore. I didn't want to play with ladders at 2 a.m. and hoses and sub-minus temperatures and snow, and I didn't want to play with them on the sand and the beach in Australia. I did not want that. Yeah. And a week into the country, I found myself into the CFA. Because we're habitual animals too, and sometimes whether it's good for us or bad for us, we go to what we know. Yeah. Right.
That's that element of safety.
Like even when it sometimes isn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I loved it. And I guess I share this because so you played with airplanes and fire trucks, bilateral like a train track, and at the same time. Yes, it did. Because at that time, and even today looking back, they both gave me a sense of self, a sense of balance. The bad stuff of one was offset by some of the exciting things I've seen in the other. Yeah. But the bad stuff over here in the aviation space, it's like, oh, the fire trucks aren't so bad. They gave me kind of a sense of balance, if that makes sense. And they both enriched me. And they this is where the flowers start popping in manure. There was a high respect from both industries in that I was in both. There's this kind of a, Shep, can you give us some pointers from your fireside and how we're doing things over here in the hangar?
Yeah.
The hangar, vice versa. The fire service, what systems do you guys have over there and how do you deal with? So there was a symmetry where they were actually, Shep's a shared resource. And quite often they'd, yeah, what do you know? How do you guys do it? And it kind of, yeah, it was just very cool because it gave me a sense of, oh, I'm no different than Brett or Sally or Bob or Sue, but they value me because I have something that they need and vice versa. Yeah, so it was kind of good. And it went further than that because quite often in both environments, I started to mature myself and I started to see things. So when I had hair, abs, and dreams, I worked for FedEx while I was in my first run of uni and getting into that aviation space. And inside one of the internal comms was this cartoon caption. And it had an old guy and a young guy in a baggage tug. And they were trying to push back a fully loaded 747 freighter. So wrong plant and equipment for the wrong task, using the wrong tool for the wrong job.
Yep.
And in the next couple captions, they blow the tug up. Smoke coming out of the motor, the tires are burnt off it, and yeah, a whole lot of nothing came from it. They're both frazzled and question marks popping out of their heads. And underneath the final caption was, the air of the mature is to believe that their life experience is a substitute for education, while the air of youth is to believe their education is a substitute for life experience. To give us your best, to be your best at FedEx, we need you to bring the best of you and the best of both you bring.
Yeah.
Any education you come with that's valuable, we value you and it. Any experience you can bring to help make us better, we value it. Bring them both. We welcome it. And we can achieve more. And that's a value I carry in the wellness space because I was in my early 20s when I saw that. And to this day, I still see the cartoon in my head when I lecture and teach other people coming into the RTO system or uni system when I talk to it. I believe in it because now I'm in the 50-something club. And that's why you and I are alumni and on the same journey doing the same education, is because I identified I need further education to support some of the experience I've seen in both those industries and what I can take from that to build up another industry.
Yep.
What can I give the health system for my life of airplanes and fire trucks and now an education that backs it a little bit more? How can I give them the best of Shep so they can get the best of themselves? So to me, that's leadership. Sometimes it's not about getting an education to have a test mirror to hang on the wall and say, hey, look at me, I'm a smart, dumb old country boy. It's about, hey, I've just got an education, and the first thing I'm going to do with it, share it with other students coming in to learn from me.
Yep.
Every student that comes in to do a Cert 4 diploma, health and safety and leadership management safety Cert 4, or ICAM, hey, fresh off the uni press and in Shep's noggin, into your noggin.
Yeah.
Here's a great book I've had to read, and it may help you. Here's some insights from a lecture I was just in that may be valuable to you. Hey, here's a cool story of something I once lived through.
And it doesn't have to be a formal education that you're learning from either. It can be as simple as a podcast or doing some professional development. Like last week, I was part of a group, a lesson called the GROAT session. The GOAT session. And there was 4 leaders in the community services sector teaching what they've learned over those 4 years. And then I've gone and, if you go back to the last episode, I actually mentioned that leading from the ego or from the eco side of the brain, which side are you leading from? And it's like, yeah, like that's really embedded in me now, because you're going, am I leading from that ego or leading from the ego in the system? So it doesn't have to be that formal education that you're learning from. It could be a book, a podcast, just listening to someone talk.
I think so too. Can I introduce you to another guest on your show today? You didn't know was coming? Get him. Sorry, he was just finishing his lunch. Hi, Brett.
Baby Shark.
I'm Bruce, and I need your help.
What can I do, Bruce?
Am I a hazard or a risk?
Both.
I told you he was going to say that. I can only be one. What am I?
At this stage, you're a hazard.
Why?
Because there is risk, but the risk is low at this stage.
Tell him. Okay, Bruce, I'll tell him. Bruce is a hazard. He's a shark. He will never not be a shark. You live in the center of Australia's outback. Is Bruce a hazard or a risk?
Definitely a hazard. There's no risk of a shark.
He's still a hazard. He will never not be a hazard. He's just not a hazard with any risk to you. Make sense?
Yeah.
Well, this is where old Bruce has had the luxury of sitting in lectures and helping me introduce hazard and risk management.
So then how can we take that idea of risk and hazard and implement that into our workplaces, or leadership take that idea and back into their teams?
Bruce is a visible thing.
Mhm.
When we present it as something people can see and touch and smell and understand, I think they get it.
Mm.
So speak to some of the hazards in real life to the workers. What keeps them up at night? What worries them? And the same thing, as leaders, give yourself that reprieve of what keeps you up at night.
Mm.
Is it Bruce? And why? Because the reality is we can coexist with Bruce quite easily. And we can coexist with electricity and water and fire and heights and confined space. We can actually coexist with snakes and spiders and fires and wires. But what we don't want is slips, trips, and falls that come from it.
Yeah.
Makes sense?
Yeah.
And now this is a wellness program, and I'm talking again the clinical safety, systems of work, safety, systems of work. But there's symmetry in them.
Well, my oldest one wants to start her own YouTube channel. She's 8, wants to start her own YouTube channel teaching kids self-care.
That's nice.
Like they're picking up on the conversation that I'm having with them.
It makes a difference. There's no perfect safety system. And here's an example. When my son was your daughter's age, he walked into the garage and he stood at the end of it. And I'm cutting wood, and I stopped and I looked at him and I said, "You okay, buddy? Daddy, how come you make other people at work wear safety glasses and gloves and earmuffs, and when Grayson and I come into the garage, you make us wear safety stuff to keep us safe, but you're not wearing any hearing protection. You're not wearing any glasses, and you're cutting wood. How come you're allowed to do it?" And yeah. And it's like, wow, out of the mouths of babes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And there's not even a do as I say, not as I do moment there. It's just, Shep, if that's not a safety lessons learned.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have nothing to give anyone if you can't play by the rules yourself. And you're a 6-year-old's calling you out for it.
Yeah.
So, and it'd be confronting.
That can be all it needs. It's just that having a child go, hang on, let's question this. Because, many times kids are taught not to question things and just do it. Especially when, us older ones who were taught a different way.
Do as we say, not as we do. And kids are meant to be seen, not heard. Yeah.
Yeah. So then now to have kids go, hang on, let's just question this and go, why me and not you, sort of thing. And that can be enough to go, hey, actually, yeah, no, you're right.
Well, when they're the generation that will succeed us, and sadly as it is with just the economies of scale and how we've designed our existence, they will actually be the taxpayers that carry us into our old age in a pine box.
Yeah.
So why exclude them now from these safety conversations?
And
because eventually they will be the ones in the workforce carrying us.
Yeah.
So it behooves us to nurture it now.
Safety is something that will transcend generations, and if they've got a good understanding now, then they're ahead of the game.
In your own way, we're giving them a dad moment, but they're actually getting a leadership moment.
Yeah.
That will make them better, more empowered leaders. And that's what we're in it for.
Yeah.
We're in the business of helping nurture leaders.
Yeah.
Not sheep.
Yeah. So going back to leadership, I was listening, the previous guest was talking about the book, The 7 Habits of, what's it called?
Highly Effective People.
Leaders. Yep.
Stephen Covey's, beautiful book.
So in the first couple of chapters, he's talking about how, there's dependent people where, say for example, someone with a disability, they're dependent on, they can be dependent on support workers for things, or, children are dependent on parents. Independent people, they can do things for themselves. They don't really need that help of other people. But then interdependent is working for the common goal together. It's like, a team is an interdependent relationship, or, your spouse is an interdependent relationship, and 2 people working for the same goal. So how can leaders then use that to then go, okay, how can we work to be better together as a team in that interdependent relationship?
Got another resource I'd love to send you that I procured. You know what I will do? I will send it to you. You can, my office. I'm a scatterbrain there it is. Bear with me for 1 second again.
Yep.
Good girl. Thank you. I have a Labrador, 2 Labradors.
Okay.
One's a real daddy's girl. So, but yeah, she's the biggest doorstop you'll ever see. So I'm going to send you down one of those, my friend.
Yep.
And I think it's very relevant. It's what's your leadership style? Because I think, whether we know it or not, we all kind of are built-in leaders in some capacity.
Yeah.
So for instance, I fixed airplanes. I flew airplanes. I fought fires and drove fire trucks. I didn't fix the computers behind them. So computers is new, but you might be a leader in that space where I'm not. A leader doesn't have to be everything for everyone all the time. but knowing the strength of each person that make them a leader of something, helps everybody win. So this is the 6 leadership styles, and I'm sure you've probably seen 1,000. What you don't know about is probably not worth knowing, but it is a very captivating area for me. So you get your commanding, your visionary, affiliative, democratic, pace-setting, and your coaching leaders. They all have really great and endearing and strong attributions. They all have some warts too.
Yep.
And it's just learning where the warts lie, just like Bruce, and then how to coexist with it or get through it. Now, just off the back of your comment, and it was really funny timing when you and I were pre-talking, and you asked me the question around the 7 habits of highly effective people. This wasn't coincidental. When you asked, I said, how funny is that in my head? It's sitting next to my Mac Pro book, the newest edition. I got my first copy when I worked for FedEx when I was 23 and took courses around his stuff. He's long left us in the world, unfortunately, to an accident, but his legacy isn't, and his family uphold it, and they've created more resources for us to better learn.
Yeah, so I'm listening to the audio book on Spotify, and his son has added extra bits to the audio book that hasn't taken away from the crux of Stephen's work, but it's more updated to build on what was there and kind of bring it into the new modern.
The 8th habit and primary colors, I suspect you've probably seen.
Not yet. I've only just started listening to it.
Okay, I won't ruin it for you. That's good. What I encourage you to do off the back of your other speaker, conversation you had was great. 23-year-old Shep got a first copy. 50-something Shep, first copy sitting on next to the Mac Pro. When you asked, have you seen this book? I'm like, yeah, I'm looking at it. And the reason it's sitting next to me is you're going to see a lot of awesome books in your journey. And to any of your audience out there, you will as well. Don't be afraid to share those insights and knowledge from those other books so we can all collectively learn, share, and get copies as well. Every person should have a copy of this book. And it's not a book you just put on your shelf after you've read it once, let it collect dust. It's one that you keep going back and reflecting on, because what you just asked me, that's different interpretations, different. What am I trying to say to you? What I read at 23 and what I'm reading in the 50-something club are different. Same information, but it's how I'm processing, interpreting it, and understanding how to apply it. 23-year-old Chet had a lot of education, but not a lot of life experience. 50-something Shep now has the life experience with some education that was outdated and needed to be. And this, how do I do it? I'm going back to school. I'm going to update my education, and I'm going to. Sorry.
You mentioned there about it's not something you read once and you put in your bookshelf to collect dust. The word habit is in the title of the book. It's like it needs to be a habit to keep reading it and going over those habits, because, as you said, each time you read it, you interpret something differently. You pick up on something else. It's like, you watch a movie the first time and you miss half the storyline because you're thinking about it, but then you watch it the second time and you pick up on something else that you might have missed. Or, like in Game of Thrones, there was a Starbucks coffee cup on the table that you didn't see the first time. But now that people have been talking about it, you know that it's there. So you see the coffee cup that shouldn't be there in the Game of Thrones era, but there's a Starbucks coffee cup on the table.
So I did not know that. And I'm going to go back and watch that now just to look for it.
Yeah. So now you're like, every time you reread or rewatch something, you pick up on something new that you might have missed previously, and then that then becomes that learning opportunity.
I think so too. And I think you couldn't ask for a better mentor than Stephen Covey.
Yeah.
And his resource. It's very profound. So I think your previous guest was leading you down a good leadership path.
Yeah.
Great book. It's not a book, it's a tool.
Yeah.
And it's no different than any other tool you have in your toolbox. You need to maintain it. And to maintain it, you simply have to read it and apply it.
Yeah.
And share that knowledge. And that's leadership.
Okay, so then looking at that as, you know, that book being a tool, we were talking previously about how you're not so strong with the AI, but there's this tool out there that, you know, seems to be growing traction and seems to be the way forward. How then can you, as a leader, then lean on other people who might be experts in that field?
I love that question, man. You go right for the jugular of hardcore questions.
This isn't about being soft.
No, I evidently put me on the spot, but it's a good question, and I'm going to give you a movie. Since we're talking about your Game of Thrones, I'm going to go with what I knew. Again, young hair, abs, and dreams. Shep. Jurassic Park was my favorite movie of all time.
Yeah.
Not the 10,000 other franchises that came on the back of it.
Yeah.
The primary one.
Yeah.
And if you go on my LinkedIn profile, I put myself vulnerably out there to the world and said, you know what? Words that stuck with me was when Sam Neill's stuck in the tree with the two kids, and the young girl, Ellie, says, Dr. Grant, now that dinosaurs are back, what are you going to do? Because we don't need people digging up dead ones anymore. He said, I guess I'll just have to evolve too. And that stuck with me. And this is part of where I believe leadership takes you, is that it's not just a set and forget system. Just like I said with Stephen Covey's book, we have to keep reflecting back, make it a habit, and keep being nourished by it, learning from it. And in the same context, Shep will never stop digging up bones.
Yeah.
And nor should we. We learn from things of the past. But what we learn from it, we take into the future as lessons learned.
Yeah.
So we can deal with the live ones more. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm saying is Shep wasn't good with computers. So what did Shep do? I signed up for Udemy courses to learn how to go through Excel, the fundamentals of it, and know what a formula is, and know what equals, sum, brackets, blah, blah, blah. I still don't get that. But I know more today than I did, if you asked me 5 years ago, because I realized that was an area that people expected me to perhaps know to do a job for them. And I couldn't hand on heart say, yeah, I know how to drive Excel. I'm not going to fake it till I make it. So I just pay $100, get on Udemy, and have a leader of that area teach me. Put yourself out there. You don't know what you don't know. Learn it. Ask. And sometimes I think in leadership, being able to openly show your vulnerability in areas of weakness shows other people an area of strength.
And also,
I can't tell you, I've had those
leadership
conversations where, sorry.
No, I was going to say, leadership is around continuing to learn. It's not I'm the leader now, this is it. It's this is what I know. I need to build on this and go further.
And I do believe it works, because I think if you ask any of your guests, you probably would have experienced this yourself. People, Shep admitted he didn't know that. Oh, that's awesome. You know, people actually see it as not a vulnerability. They see it, the guy put his heart and his ass out on the line and admit it to an area of weakness,
Mm.
it gives them a chance to kind of, whew. I have had conversations where people one-on-one afterwards, thanks for sharing that. I don't know how to do it either.
Mm.
It's sometimes when we put ourselves out there and show vulnerability, it's like taking a pitchfork and throwing a good old scoop of horse shit somewhere in the garden bed.
Yeah.
It opens up nutrients for something else to grow and someone else to grow and say, hey, oh, yeah. Thanks for spreading that. I struggle too.
Yeah.
And when we when we show that vulnerability, we show solidarity, and solidarity shows strength. And I think in a way we actually take back ownership of what that hazard or risk or area of weakness had on us.
Yeah.
We actually take control of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Kind of. I think it does. It's all about empowerment and not about roar. It's about how can we get through this?
Yeah. Yeah. So, Shep, you mentioned earlier about having a book recommendation for the episode.
I did, yes.
Yeah.
And this is where it ties it into the AI thing and my Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
I have to evolve too.
Mm.
Right? So I'm learning that 5-scale thing of AI at uni on the projects you and I are working on, assessments, and what that means and what I'm allowed to play and do in that space. But I never want to lose the human element of it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So this book is a series of books from Uncle John's bathroom reading. And just like its title, it's exactly that. This fella, he's deceased now too, like Stephen Covey, but he created a series of books on just general knowledge, trivial knowledge, but kind of factual. But he did them, and here's the leadership side of it. He figured out that people, when they read multiple pages of a book, they are hard-pressed to retain and remember what they've read. So he takes that information and he's breaking it down into paragraphs through the series of books in a trivial format and a friendly font, nice read, and designed it for you in the bathroom to sit and read while you're sitting there. And the joke is you may as well get educated while you're just sitting around anyway.
May as well.
And you'd probably be hard pressed to want to borrow a book from somebody that, you buy your own. And I'm sure he do that too. And that's why the books are so successful. But they've been around for 25, 30 years as well.
Yep.
That's the old dinosaur digging, Shep. Why do I do it? Why do I recommend it to other leaders? It's because we want to be leaders of people, and people have different interests.
Yeah.
And have you ever had those conversations, Brett, where you're out for dinner? There's always that kind of weird awkwardness. It's a new couple that the wife's met the wife at a school function, and they're a lovely couple. I'd like us to get to know them, and we'll have dinner, and then you're handshaking, you're having that restaurant sit down, and you're trying to break the ice, and what are we going to talk about? And then just in that moment, there's that interest of, oh yeah, I'm into. I traveled overseas when I was young. I went on a trip to Canada. Oh really? Yeah. I went over there because I was learning how to fly, and yeah. Oh, interesting. I was actually just reading this thing on, have you heard of the Gimli glider? Air Canada 767, when they went in the 60s from being imperial to metric. And they didn't educate people on the difference between a gallon and a liter, and they underfueled an aircraft, and a 767 actually successfully was glided to the ground like a glider. No one died, and the plane was still saved. How did you know that? That's interesting. Yeah, you know what I mean? It sounds weird, but it's just these little pathways into other people's worlds where rather than having those awkward moments of quiet and what do we talk about, just empowering yourself with a whole lot of You don't have to be a subject matter in everything, but isn't it nice to engage in a conversation that develops into something more robust?
Yeah. Yeah.
And all because you took 5 minutes and something that nature said you had to sit and do anyway, and spun up on a couple of topics and knew just enough to be able to talk to it comfortably, and then invite them in, because then they become that leader. They're the subject matter expert of that topic, and they get to drive the show. You just kind of sit back and you've just opened the door, showing an interest in something they care about, and then they take it from there. And you just have to open your heart, open your eyes, open your mind, and close your mouth and let them have the show. Iron sharpens iron and all of this. I strongly believe that. We all have language, literacy, numeracy barriers. We all have different spiritual, religious identity beliefs. Whether we agree with it or not, we just kind of embrace them. That's their thing. That's what they're passionate about. I guess I'm going to throw away this dinosaur bone in this moment and get on with the current live one that's in front of me.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So yes, that is my recommendation. There are a lot of really awesome leadership books, thousands out there, and written by some really amazing people. Just like anything, some leaders you'll gravitate to and you'll learn from. Other ones you'll be like, appreciate you. I don't understand you, but I appreciate you. And that's okay.
And I guess that's part of the way I'm running this series, is that there's leadership tools that can be learnt from someone in a different industry that is relevant to my industry. So I'm going to take that nugget of gold and implement that nugget into my leadership style, or into my team, or into, my area, and build on that.
Because I think that's, dude, you hit it on the head. It's just take that knowledge, take that nugget of opportunity, and use it as leverage. Learn from it. For instance, what you don't know about leadership and psychosocial isn't worth knowing. It's more than I will probably ever know, because in the scope of psychosocial, it's fallen into my lap of safety.
Yeah.
I've probably been a victim as a worker to it, but now as a safety leader in it, I'm learning too. I was always about the slip, trip, falls, the actual sharks in the water, the electricity in the walls. But occupational violence, I've never seen the numbers, or they were probably always there, but I maybe just wasn't aware or oblivious to it. And all of a sudden now I'm the safety leader in it. And I'm like, is there a day that this world will have some peace where no one's out to rip out each other's jugular or kick the crap out of each other? Like, where does this come from, and how what's this safety system look like? Workplace bullying, ostracization, harassment. What does this? Wow. And then you step back. I was that young guy once that I was ostracized. I was bullied. Even moving to Australia from another colonial country came with some racist and bigot comments. And learning to persevere over it. And rather than getting angry, educating. And letting them understand, Canadians don't like being called Americans any more than Aussies don't like being called Kiwis, or Scots don't like being called English, or Zimbabwe don't like being called South Africans. We all identify as who we are, and we appreciate being identified for who we are. And not targeted. I guess that's a bit of a waffle, but it gives context to the fact that we're all different, and we can just easily fire up. We can become angry, and we can become part of a problem, or we have a chance to become a leader. and drive change.
Yeah.
And we drive change through our communications, our consultation, our engagement, our attitude. Attitude speaks leaps and bounds over anything else, and how we react to things.
Yeah.
Because the person who makes the racist comment, the person who does the wrong thing by somebody else, isn't really the person who's in that moment on the spotlight. It's you as the leader and how you're going to resolve or react to it that people are captivated by.
Mm.
How's our hero in the white cowboy hat going to deal with this? What's he or she going to do?
I think we're all coming from our past experiences are then going to give us a different outcome of where we're going in that leadership journey.
Share those experiences,
Yeah.
If it's from an education standpoint, I have empathy for you, Brett. And there's a really great book I think might help you that I've read, and it certainly helped me. Or I feel for you, Brett, and I get why you probably thought what you were doing was the safe work process for doing something, or why you thought it was okay to say that. I'm not perfect. I've done that too.
Mm-hmm.
But here's what I've learned from it. You do you. You don't have to take on what I'm saying, but this is what I experienced, and this is how I overcame it. So I release it. It's yours to. That's my experience.
Yeah.
Take it or leave it.
Yeah.
And make it yours and see how you drive it. Maybe it works better for you. And that's an even better outcome.
Mm.
It's not about making a final paper and that's it. It's about making a paper with annual revisions and improvements.
Yeah.
So how can I take my experience, give it to you, and you come up with something better, and then you give it to that daughter of yours, and I give it to my son, and then they give it to another coworker.
Yeah.
That's leadership.
Yeah. That then leads into the last question that I've got. And so this question was left by the previous guest. And the question that's been left for you is, how does a leader know that they're building something meaningful, not just building something successful?
That is beautiful. So I'm going to kind of go back into a bit of my waffle and rabbit warrants. I took you down through this because I started into one, and my son coming out and saying, "Dad, you make everybody else wear safety gear. You make Grayson and I wear safety stuff, but you're not wearing it." Leadership is successful because young children took on that knowledge they were given. And in the same context, in recent conversations, I've said nothing to in the after conversation, but I've actually heard, Shep has told us we could do this, or we should consider this. Actually, yeah, Shep told us the same, and we should consider this. It's kind of that same out of the mouths of babes.
Yeah.
If you walk integratively, speak with facts, and supporting knowledge, education, or evidence to back them and lead them right, I think it's working because things are getting done. And you sometimes get the fly on the wall moment where you get to actually hear them say, well, Brett said we should consider this. I don't know about you, but I get those little cockles in my heart, the little butterflies of like, well, they take what I say with heart and with trust. Shep's is me for this, and we can trust what he says, and he's guiding us right. So does that make sense?
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't have to seek affirmation that we're doing leadership well, but sometimes as humans, it's nice to hear that people respect that.
Yeah.
We are leading them right.
Yeah. And oftentimes in leadership, we're given, we're not given that praise that we're doing a good job. Oftentimes it's us giving praise down to a good job. And it's, it can be difficult to then praise up the line rather than praise down.
I think so. Sometimes, yeah. I just think the best part about being a leader is when They don't see you as a leader. They see you as somebody they want to be around.
Yeah.
They want to
Yeah.
hear, they want to see, and they want to talk to.
Mm.
That they're not afraid to tell you when they've done something wrong, because they feel that telling you is the right thing to do, not fear of repercussions.
Mm.
So, yeah, that's a really profound question.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks for
I
your time
guess
today, Shep.
my pleasure. I suppose in your segments you lead in with a question that you want from me for the next person.
Yeah, but I'll get that afterwards.
Fantastic, because I need to think about that.
Yeah. Awesome.
I have an
All right.
idea.
Cool. Well, thanks for your time today, Shep. And for anyone who's interested, I'll put Shep's contact details in the show notes. So be sure to click on there and check out the dinosaur moment from Jurassic Park on his LinkedIn. And remember, look after yourself first. So look after other people. And I'll catch you next time.